So, just to do a quick recap, we were talking about how mindfulness, which we, went over what mindfulness is the last couple days, being fully in a present moment with kindness and curiosity. And so, when we do that with not having any judgment, we can choose a right response. And so, we've talked about the benefits from mindfulness and being mindful. And then, I was talking about how mindfulness has been also so effective to implement cognitive behavioral therapy approach, which basically tells us the way we think affects the way we feel, and the way we feel affects the way we behave. And our emotions do generate a physical response in our body, which we often notice. And if we pay close attention, we notice what's happening in which part of the body and what kind of emotions do that for us. We had spent a lot of time understanding this construct in the thought management series. So for people who are joining today or who've missed that, please go back to review that if you're more interested in learning more about CBT and thought management through that. It's on Tarika Foundation's website. And then we talked about how mindfulness helps with building this awareness, not just about what's happening around me. So I can do mindful walking by being in the moment, admiring the flowers and the trees and feeling the warmth of the sun on my cheek or the breeze, blowing my hair. I mean, I can, do that, and that's my mindful walk. Or I can, just walk and I can talk at the same time on my phone, or I'm just like not even, there's something going on in my inner chatter, with my thoughts about what I have to do next and what happened today, and I could have said this, I could have done this. So, those are the differences of how we can, you know, use mindfulness in a way that can be more helpful versus not. And so, besides awareness about the outer world and how we can bring in mindfulness in those things, mindfulness also helps you build your attention muscle to notice what you're thinking, being aware of some of the thoughts you're having, and kind of being curious about which mind are they coming from. I have bubbles on the slide because they kind of remind us about thought. Just like these bubbles, we have thought bubbles that we typically see in the storybooks or cartoons. And so, we can use mindfulness to watch our thoughts and then be aware of our feelings that follow our thoughts. And we talked about how we can, for some feelings, we just need to sit with them, befriend them. And for some others, we can use other ways to express those feelings. And when we do both of those things, we are able to actually have a little bit of a control over, you know, preventing that cascade of that emotional response. And so I'll take a moment to explain this slide to you guys. So, what we understand is that if I'm being, if I'm thinking, you know, for example, like what if I lose my job tomorrow? It's, that thought creates feelings of insecurity, worry, fear, sadness, frustration. Maybe there may be all that you may notice. And so if then I say, and then, you know, I will never ever be able to find the job. I was lucky to get this job. I can, usually what happens is that one mother thought gives rise to a lot of baby thoughts, and we can get into that spiral. And if you guys remember, we talked about the feelings thermometer when we were doing anger management series. And so imagine that feelings thermometer from 0 to 100 or 0 to 10 to keep it even simple. When my emotions are rising on that thermometer, I'm moving from feeling fine to feeling frustrated to feeling scared and worried. Once I cross approximately, just to understand this concept, let's say if we divide that 0 to 10 scale to 0 to 5 and then 5 to 10, up until 0 to 5 range, I have a choice. Oops, sorry. I have a choice to use some of my skills to, see what is a way to solve this problem that I'm worried about. But once that awareness is not there and I'm catching myself more in that second zone of 5 to 10 or more, so even like 7 to 10, by then my emotional brain has taken over my rational brain. So we've talked about this whole concept of how we have an emotional or reptilian or over, this old brain that we still have from many, many millions of years. When we used to live in the caves, we would be worried about, protecting ourselves from every little animal we used to live with. And so that brain, that survival, instinct was so ingrained and so deep rooted for us, is that anytime we perceive any kind of stress or threat or fear or worry, that same fight or flight response is initiated by our brain, and our other organs of the body are instructed to get ready for that fight and flight mode. And so when I'm, climbing on that feelings thermometer from 0 to 5 to 6 to 7, 8, by then there's been enough threat that's been perceived by the emotional brain that this is something that's totally scary. Oh, and so by then my problem solving ability, which comes from my rational brain or more the logical brain, is taken over. So we say that, your logical brain is hijacked by the emotional brain. And here on this side, we represent like a graph. And what we are talking about is, so if I'm climbing on that emotional wave of feeling, worried, feeling frustrated, feeling sad, then I'm starting to feel really, really fearful. So once I get to this top of the wave, I'm in that refractory zone. And when I say refractory zone, meaning at that point, my logical brain is not accessible, and whatever my emotional brain tells me to do, I will do that. So if the emotional brain is like, I'm mad and upset, I'm frustrated, I want to give up, that's the reaction, that's the response I'm choosing. And or I'm going to like displace that anger and frustration on somebody who is talking to me maybe about something else, but I might, because I've pent up this and I'm now in this emotionally refractory zone, I, begin to react in a way where later on I feel like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have reacted. And so the idea is to prevent, for us to go into this refractory period where I lose my problem solving ability and I react instead of responding. So, like this slide is saying, reaction is typically immediate and based fully on emotions and feelings in that moment. On the contrary, a response is where it involves some thought, and you're taking some time to think through what are my options, what are some of the ways I could, solve this situation or problem. And so that's the response is slightly delayed, but it's done very thoughtfully. It's done with using your logical reason brain, and as well as taking account into the emotions that have been involved in that situation. But this is where I think the mindfulness helps. And so I will come to this exercise, but I want to kind of talk about this to give you a perspective on, there is a stimulus, a situation or stimulus, and if I'm not, you know, practicing mindfulness or building that awareness about paying attention to what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what are my different options and choices, I'm very easy to react. But if I, take a moment to take a pause, because, as Viktor Frankl said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and freedom. So, if I develop this skill of mindfulness in my other day-to-day activities, and again, I want to remind people that I'm not expecting you to be mindful. Ideally, one should be, but not expecting it to be happening every second of your day, you know. But even if you take moments of your day to practice that and build that awareness and build that strength in your attention muscle to quickly stay in tune with what's going on internally, then that will come in very handy in extreme circumstances where the stimulus might be hard or difficult. And then, it will allow you to look at the whole picture before you choose the response. So that really gives you, that power to choose the response. So, uh, you know, what we do to be able to get there is this journey of first taking a pause by following your breath and resting in stillness and quietness, watching your thoughts, befriending your feelings, then riding that wave of emotion without getting stuck in that refractory period, and choosing a different street that is a response rather than react. And so this is a really nice, mindfulness exercise. If people want me to conduct this, I'm happy to do this. It's an acronym that puts together how, when we are facing a difficult situation, what steps we can take, and then, how we can choose a response. And so, would people be interested in participating in a 5 to 7 minute mindfulness exercise on this PEACE acronym?
Yes, Dr. Lina. Hi, good morning.
Okay. So,
Yes,
you
Dr.
know,
Lina.
yeah, I think, this is a very nice exercise. I personally love it, and I've always received a very positive response about this particular exercise. By the way, I have recorded, other mindfulness exercises on thought watching, feelings, on loving compassion, on mindful eating, and all of those are also available on my website under the same tab under resources, and it's www.tarika.foundation. So, under resources, you will be able to access just mindfulness exercises, which are recordings from the sessions I conducted a couple months ago. So I've certainly edited that and added some background music, so you may find that helpful. And then there are certainly also thought management, anger management series, and now we'll upload the stress management as well, along with the sleep management that we did. So um, I would like to request all of you to sit in a comfortable position with your back upright. Taking a moment to withdraw from the outside world and bringing your kind and curious attention to your breath. Notice how when you breathe in, your belly rises, and when you breathe out, the belly goes down. Enjoying the rhythmic breathing. And as you are slowly settling into that stillness and quietness, think about a situation that was very difficult for you. It may be a current problem you are experiencing, or something that has happened in the past. Just bring that situation in front of you and take a pause. When you take a pause, make sure you inhale and then exhale. And when you exhale, you may want to let out a sigh or a groan. Sometimes you may even want to cry, and that's okay. But just stay with your breath and just keep breathing. Now let's move to the A in the PEACE acronym. It stands for acknowledge, accept, and allow. As you continue to breathe, acknowledge the situation as it is. Acknowledging the situation doesn't mean you are happy about it. It just means that you recognize the situation is what it is, whether you like it or not. A also stands for accepting the situation and your reaction to it, whether you were feeling furious, devastated, angry, or something else. And finally, A is for allowing the experience. Do your best to rest in your stillness and quietness and watch all your thoughts, feelings, and body sensations. Also notice whether you're tempted to suppress your experience by pretending that you're fine. Or notice if you want to create additional drama by rehashing things in your head or with your friends or family. Whatever that might be, just allow those experiences to happen. And as you're doing that, remind yourself to find a way of having your thoughts and feelings without your thoughts and feelings having you. That is making you act in a way you will regret later. And as we've done all the A's of acknowledging the situation, accepting the situation and your reaction to it, and allowing the feelings and thoughts and physical sensations that were brought by that situation. Let's move to the C. The C is for choose. When you are ready, and this may take a few moments, days, weeks, or even months, depending on the situation, choose how will you respond. Responding also involves some additional C's like clarity, courage, and compassion. Clarity is being clear about what you want and what your limits are and what you are responsible for. Courage means being brave about speaking your truth and hearing the truth of others. And compassion means being kind to yourself and others and understanding how incredibly difficult it's sometimes to be a human being. So choose your response based on the clarity, courage, and compassion towards the situation. And after you've followed these steps of taking a pause, exhale, allowing your experience, accepting the situation, and choosing your response, you can now engage with that situation using that response that you think seems like a right response. So to go over the acronym PAEACE. P stands for pause, E stands for exhale, A stands for acknowledging and accepting the situation and allowing the experience. C stands for choosing the response based on clarity, courage, and compassion. And when I follow those steps, I'm able to see the right response that I can then use to engage in that behavior or that action. As we are coming to the end of this practice, I would like you to wiggle your fingers and toes. Notice your contact of the feet on the ground if you're sitting upright, or the contact of your back on the chair or the couch. Being aware of your breath. Gently bring yourself back into the room you started. In a moment, I'm going to ring the sound bowl that's going to produce some nice vibrating sound. Follow the sound that's produced by the sound bowl. And when you no longer can hear that sound, gently open your eyes and raise your hand. I hope everybody was able to follow that practice, and hopefully you enjoyed that journey of following the acronym PEACE and felt peaceful at the end of it. So here are some helpful websites. Like I said, I have my own, you know, um, practice recordings on this website, but there is also other free guided auditory practices that are available on this link. And A Still Quiet Place is a website where I, got to get introduced to mindfulness through the founder, Amy Saltzman, who's a mindfulness teacher. She actually is in our Bay Area, and she offers online 10 weeks course on mindfulness if people are more interested in learning more and diving more deeply into that. So with that, thank you everyone for giving me this opportunity to be with you guys for the last few weeks and share some of the knowledge and learn from each other. Thank you.